Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is November the 4th, 2022, and we are continuing our look into how the full moon became how the new moon became the dark moon. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Amos 8:5. I thought I had read this. I thought I had went over it in the previous video because I had done that video more than once. So let's go ahead and do this. Saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit. Now, this is one of the reasons why I had pointed out earlier that the new moon is not the first of the month, because we're not actually given the first, the second, the third, the fourth, anything like that. For the new moon, the state is narrowed down to one of three states when he says this. It can be the dark moon, it can be the full moon, or it can be a combination of the two. Can't be anything else because we don't have a number showing that combination. So when he says, saying, when will the new moon be gone? If it's in his dark state, literally he only has a couple of hours to wait before it's gone. Nobody actually celebrates on the dark moon. We always wait till the next day. But we're not talking about that here. We need to look at the extremes to make the sentence, to understand what the man is saying. And so we're going to take it for what it says. So if it's the dark moon that he's speaking of, literally he could have just slept in, came out at high noon and started selling his goods. It's not the most logical fit. So then if he means the first of the month, which is when most people celebrate the new moon, then the moon is now in a state of a crescent. Now, if we weren't waiting for that crescent in order to celebrate it, it might be a little bit different. But we intentionally wait for that crescent to show up. Well, when you intentionally wait for that crescent to show up, because not everyone does, then it becomes a problem. So if you're waiting to see the light, then you move into that state where it's a mixture of the two. Because you don't get to say how much of a light. You just have to look at the state here because he doesn't say. So now if he says, when will the new moon be gone? Then you logically have to go all the way around back to the dark moon. Because you rule out everything else as being part of the new moon, because everything else is a mixture of the light. The only thing, of course, that could possibly be different is the full moon. And when the full moon comes, you don't have to wait for anything. You see, you're waiting for it to change into the state of the full moon. So once you have the full moon there, it's recognized as the full moon. So if they were to say, when will the full moon be gone? Even though the state has changed, the mindset is that we were waiting for it to get to this state. So now we can celebrate. So now he's saying, when will the celebration be gone? So that he can sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat. Do you see? So this is the verse actually that made me realize that it had to be full moon, because we wait for the state to change to something other than what it is. If it's a dark moon, we're waiting for the for the state to change into something when it's a full moon. So it can only be full moon. Logically speaking, he can only be speaking of full moon, unless, now logically you can say it's a dark moon. No one celebrates on a dark moon, but it works logically because there are a couple of hours between the new moon and the next day. So he has about 6 hours. So you can say it's the dark moon. But if he says this at any time other than the full moon or the dark moon, if he says it at the crescent, it takes him all the way back around to the same state that he's currently in. It's illogical. It's illogical. You can say it takes him to the full moon, but then that puts you right back into the understanding of, it puts you right back into that state because we celebrate on the 15th of the month. It's still illogical. You see, it doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is if it's a full moon. So that's why when I saw this, I was like, okay, wait a second. It has to be full moon that he's speaking of. Anyway, let's go on. Now, the word for full moon, let me show you this word. I made a little cheat sheet, actually. I'll show you this. This is my little cheat sheet here. So this is the word for moon here. This is a general word. This are months for month. That's just a general word for month. This is another word for month or moon. There's more than one word, but we'll see this. But I didn't really work with it. All of the words for new moon, I think, were under this symbol here. So that's what I worked with exclusively. All of them were. Because this is the word for new moon. This means during the month. When you see this symbol before it, it means during the month. When you see this symbol, I can't highlight it because it'll change it. When you see this symbol, then look for a number because it's going to give you the number of the month or the number of the day. This little square like symbol at the end of the word moon here, it means plural or months or moons. And this symbol here is and the month of something like that, month something, and weeks and months and years, something like that. And this is from and from. These are all just different ways that the word is used. And from the month. And this is the plural here. It has the months and then the square at the end. So it's months shall ye, during the months shall ye do something. All right, so that's my little cheat sheet that I will use because I don't speak Hebrew and I had to go in and work out a lot of these words. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get an understanding of the numbers and the years, and I may get to the days, but not yet because the years and the months is taking quite, is turning out to be quite a feat. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So this month is the full moon. So they used I'll show it to you in a moment. They used the word for full moon here. Shall be the beginning of months. These are general terms for month. This month, when I have these headers on, it messes up my highlighting. So I'm going to have very strange highlighting. Usually I'll miss the first letter altogether. But, so this is the word for new moon. This new moon will be unto you the beginning of months. You have the general word for months with the plural S at the end. It's going to be the first month of the year. So you have this symbol here. So you know to look for a number. It's the first month of the year. Let's go back. Okay, I found an error here. So we're going to look at the error more so than we are going to study the month because it doesn't really have new moons in it, but you know I like to point these things out when I find them. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, that is the lot before Haman, from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. Now, it says here in the first month. This would have been highlighted green and it would have said new moon if it meant that the first month was the month Nisan. Instead, this is saying the first month that is relative to Ahasuerus. Osiris. I can pronounce his name any other time, but I can't do it right now. So it's not, we know that the first month is not Nisan. It's not Nisan. Not only is it not Nisan, Nisan could never be the first month. It would never be named this. Hold on, I did a little research. Let me find what I have here. Abib is the first month. And I actually researched Abib. Abib was ABI. It was so hard. I think I changed the definition. I know I changed it at least once. I may have changed it twice. But the best definition I could find for ABI was to possess. It possesses something when you see that. Now, like I said, it was really hard to come to the understanding. So if you hear something different, just understand that I was there too. But the best thing that worked is to possess. So this is saying, this is that, hold on, let's find Ni first. Ni means it's a negative. It's a negative. Ni means, how are you going to start your year with a word that says no? That means no or not. No, it's negative. And then San means health. Now we're going to get to this because it means an abundance or excess. So let's just take what we have there. So Nisan means negative health. That means that the sun is going to be furthest away from the year. But we're not going to look at that right now. I mean, just logically speaking, that's what one would think. But if we look at Adar, I'm going to pull up the dictionary for this because it says we could work with abundance of excess, but I noticed that there was a king. There was a Babylonian god who was associated with excess as well. He was known as the Lord of Abundance for rains that made the land bloom, but he sent death-dealing storms to his enemies. He was also the god of oracles and divinations. So not only is Adar associated with abundance and excess, they also have a god name after it. Adar, we know what months we have abundance and excess. Those are the harvest months, the first month and the seventh month. Right? We know it's not the first month because the first month is Abib. Hold on. This day came ye out in the month Abib. And we've already looked at the scripture that said that that's the first month. So logically speaking, Adar is going to be the harvest month of March because it can't be the first month. It has to be the seventh month. Those are the months of the harvest. But to be fair, there is a harvest of fruit as well. Now, we know it can't be the first month. Well, spiritually speaking, it can, and I believe it is going to be the first month, but spiritually speaking, but we can't use that because it can't be Abib, right? So let's just use the month before, and we'll say the 12th month. So we'll say that Adar is the 12th month. So the harvest that's going to be coming off of Adar then would have to be the fruit and the trees and all of this, all of these okay, let me put it like this. We can spiritually say that there is a harvest and an abundance in the seventh month. Both we can say it spiritually and we can also say it physically because those are the months when we harvest. If we are going to say that there is a harvest of the fruit, then we are naming a month after the wicked. Jesus, one has to wonder why Jesus said he was not going to drink wine until we until we returned to the kingdom, or until we came to the kingdom. Wine is made of fruit. The death of the saints is represented by wine in the offering. I mean, I'm not saying that's why he said it, but I'm saying that is a logical reason. Jesus won't even touch wine because of the symbolic nature. Please believe, please. I'm just making an observation here. I'm not saying this is why. I'm simply making an observation. He won't touch wine because it's made with fruit, which represents the wicked in the Bible. But are we going to name a month of the Hebrews? Are we going to name a month after the wicked? The harvest of the wicked? And this is not just the people of God. No, the people of God, we all get harvested in the 7th month. That's the wheat and the tares. That's right before the millennium, the wheat and the tares, right at the 7th month. No, this is all of the wicked. This is everybody. We're going to name a month of the year after a harvest of the wicked. It's illogical. It's not true. The month of Adar is the 7th month. The month before that, instead of the 12th month, so the month before, hold on, Nisan in the 12th year of King. The first month is Nisan. And the 12th month is the month Adar. Well, it sounds backwards to me, but Adar would be the harvest month, or the 7th month, and Adar would, I'm sorry, where did Adar come from? Nisan would be the 8th month, because it comes right after. So it's far out from the sun. Logically, I would say that this is the farthest out, but they're both far out, so it's just fine. So this is going to be the 8th month. When there's no health, when there's little or no health. And it fits just fine. It fits just fine. So we're going to, but this has to be the 7th month. It has to be the 7th month. Because that's the month of the harvest. That's the month of abundance. But since there's no green here, let me show you one other thing. Well, let me show you how I figured out that there was an error here, that they were actually going by month instead of, they were going by the month of the king instead of the month of the year. One, there was no green here. And usually when they are talking about the months, they'll use they'll use the word for full moon. They won't use a regular generic month symbol. They'll let you know specifically it's the first full moon. And you can trust it when it says full moon. But the generic word for month, you have to investigate a little. And what I found the pattern is whenever you see the number after the year, it's speaking in the context of that king. It's never going to be the 12th month. It's always going to be the 12th month of the reign of that king. So you have the year here, but then you have the month given afterwards. Reading from right to left, you have the year first and then the number afterwards. So this is always going to be, look, I don't speak the language, but I see the pattern, and I see this pattern. And even though I haven't even studied a lot, I've not come across not one example otherwise. Every single time this year is first, without any exceptions. If that number comes afterwards, it has always been in the context of the person. The exceptions are made when they draw it out in the scriptures. When they put in the scriptures the the full moon of that year, or they'll do something to let you know, and it's very clear. I can't give you any other examples other than the full moon, but I know that sometimes they'll write it out. Those are the only exceptions. They make it absolutely clear it's not the 12th month of that king's reign. This is what that always means. Always. If the year comes first and the month comes, the number comes afterwards, it's in the context of the conversation. The 12th month of the reign of King Ahasuerus. So when we go back and we see Nisan, then bells and whistles don't have to go off. Why are they naming this the first month? I mean, actually, I think this is what made me investigate it a little bit, because this is not the first month. So anyway, that's the error that I wanted to point out. Let's try and get through the rest of this. I didn't know it's going to take that long, because we have quite a few more scriptures. Now in the 12th month, I did point out, because I saw that this was the celebration. Let's just read through these real quick, because I don't really remember what it was that I wanted to point out, and I want to move on. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. This is just a general month in the context of the king. 12th month in the context of the king. It can be any number. And if it doesn't specify, if it's not in green, if it's not this symbol here, right here, if it's not this symbol, then it's in the context of the reign of the king. Let's see what else I have highlighted here. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the village that dwelt in the unwalled town, see, they celebrated on the 13th, they celebrated on the 14th, and on the 15th they rested, because that was the Sabbath. That was the day of the new moon. And it was a feast because it was the 7th month. Therefore the Jews of the village that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and ascending portions one to another. Why not the 13th? Well, because the 14th is the day before the Sabbath. It's the day before the new moon. So they just made the day before the Feast of Tabernacles the new moon. The day of feasting. Here's one. Okay, great. As the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the new moon, which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning unto a good day. This is telling you the new moon. The feast days are on the full moons, and that's what the new moon is here. They were supposed to have been killed on the 13th, 2 days before their feast. And it changed. It turned them from sorrow and joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. It's the day before the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, hold on. I'm not going to get through this. I'm going to go ahead and start a new video. Maybe I should end it here and do another one separately. We really only got through one. Let's see if I can skip this. Oh, there's so much. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's see if we can do this real quick, and then we'll do Ezekiel on the next video. Also, we made ordinances for us. To charge ourselves yearly with the third part of a shekel for the service of the house of our God, for the shewbread, and for the continual meat offering, and for the continual burnt offering of the Sabbaths, of the new moons, for the set feasts, and for the holy things, and for the sin offerings, to make atonement for Israel, and for all the work of the house of our God. So here, this word is the actual word for new moon. It's been highlighted in green. I highlighted all of them in that bright green so I can recognize them. So I'll just ignore that. That's something. Let's just get it off here. So this is the word for new moon. And so when we look here, we know that they're speaking of the full moon, the very first day of the month. So let's read through this slowly again, because really what it's saying is it's not talking about a new moon at all. It says, for the showbread, and for the continual meat offering, and for the continual burnt offering. Then it names off the Sabbaths, and it says, of the full moons, for the set feasts. So the set feasts are on new moons. So it's just saying that they made the contribution for the set feasts, and it calls out that they are on a new moon. It says that right there. And you can actually look at some of the other scriptures that are given in order to see that. Here it just says month. Same word, new moon. It says month. Why did I put this in here? What point did I want to make? In the seventh month, in the seventh new moon, hold on. Let me look at the last scripture. Maybe it'll jog my memory here. Wherefore all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto the king in the feast which is in the seventh month. And here it says the seventh month. Both times it's outlining a specific celebration. I'm so mad at myself I cannot remember the point I wanted to make. But I'm going to stick with this point that I have here. That this here is not outlining a specific month. It's saying new moons to incorporate both holidays. For the continual burnt offering, for the Sabbaths, and for both of the new moons, for the set feasts, and for the holy things, and for the sin offerings, to make an atonement for Israel, and for all the work of the house of our God. There's no reason to say that this is a separate celebration. None. Because the holidays are in the specific months. And for the months, that's why I wanted to highlight it, because you can change this to months instead of new moons. You can say months for the set feast. All right. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. We will do Ezekiel in the next video, with God willing. That's the plan. I will talk with you in the next video.